The Middle East, a region synonymous with volatility, stands on the precipice once more, teetering on the edge of a potential catastrophe. At the heart of this latest crisis lies the bitter rivalry between Iran and Israel, a conflict that has simmered for decades, fueled by deep-seated animosities and geopolitical tensions. This decades-long feud is now punctuated by missile threats and the chilling specter of open warfare, with both nations seemingly on a collision course. The recent warning issued by Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, to Israel missile will destroy you, has reverberated across the globe, sending shockwaves through international communities. This stark reminder of the explosive potential of this conflict underscores the fragile peace that hangs by a thread in the region. The world watches with bated breath, apprehensive of the catastrophic consequences should these two regional powers engage in direct military confrontation, a scenario that could have far-reaching implications. The stakes are incredibly high, not just for Iran and Israel, but for the entire Middle East, and indeed the world. The ripple effects of such a conflict could destabilize the global order. This essay delves into the intricate dynamics of this volatile relationship, exploring the historical baggage, the current triggers, and the deep-rooted issues that continue to fuel this animosity. We will also examine the potential ramifications of this latest escalation, considering the broader geopolitical landscape and the possible paths to de-escalation, or, conversely, further conflict. The animosity between Iran and Israel is deeply rooted, predating the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Prior to the revolution, Iran, under the Shah's rule, enjoyed cordial relations with Israel. However, the revolution ushered in a new era, transforming Iran into an Islamic republic vehemently opposed to Israel's existence. The 1979 Islamic Revolution, spearheaded by Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, irrevocably altered the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Khomeini, the supreme leader, declared Israel an illegitimate entity, a cancerous tumor that needed to be excised. This marked the beginning of a tumultuous relationship, characterized by proxy conflicts, verbal sparring, and a perpetual atmosphere of suspicion and hostility. The recent missile threat issued by Ayatollah Khamenei, while alarming, is not an isolated incident. It comes against the backdrop of escalating tensions between Iran and Israel, fueled by a confluence of factors. Iran's growing regional influence, its nuclear ambitions, and its support for groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza have long been sources of anxiety for Israel. Israel, for its part, views Iran's activities as an existential threat, a bridge too far in its quest for regional dominance. The Israeli government has repeatedly stated its determination to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, resorting to covert operations, targeted assassinations, and diplomatic pressure to thwart Iran's nuclear program. Missiles have become a defining feature of the Middle East's security landscape. Iran possesses a formidable ballistic missile arsenal, capable of striking targets throughout the region, including Israel. These missiles, ranging in range and payload, are a constant source of concern for Israel, which views them as a direct threat to its security. Israel, in response, has developed one of the most sophisticated missile defense systems in the world, designed to intercept and neutralize incoming threats. However, the sheer volume and increasing sophistication of Iran's missile program pose a significant challenge, raising concerns about the effectiveness of Israel's defenses in the event of a full-scale conflict. Section 5. Tehran's perspective. Defiance in the face of pressure. Iran, under constant pressure from international sanctions and facing accusations of terrorism and regional destabilization, views its missile program as a crucial deterrent against external aggression. Tehran argues that its missiles are purely defensive, intended to deter attacks and ensure its security in a volatile neighborhood. Iranian officials maintain that their country poses no threat to any nation, and that its military doctrine is based on the principle of no first strike. They accuse Israel and the United States of pursuing a policy of regime change in Iran, using sanctions and military threats to undermine the Islamic Republic. Section 6. Jerusalem's dilemma: security versus escalation. Israel finds itself facing a complex dilemma, one that is deeply rooted in its history and geopolitical landscape. On the one hand, it perceives Iran's missile program as a grave threat, requiring a robust response to deter aggression and ensure its security. The advancements in Iran's military capabilities are seen as a direct challenge to Israel's safety and sovereignty. On the other hand, any preemptive action against Iran carries the risk of sparking a wider conflict, with potentially devastating consequences. Such a conflict could draw in multiple regional players, leading to a prolonged and bloody confrontation. The Israeli government must carefully weigh the risks and benefits of any military action, taking into account the potential for escalation, the possibility of civilian casualties, and the impact on regional stability. Each decision is fraught with uncertainty, and the stakes are incredibly high. The specter of a full-blown war between Israel and Iran, with its unpredictable and potentially catastrophic consequences, looms large over the region. The balance between maintaining security and avoiding escalation is a delicate one, requiring nuanced and strategic thinking. Section 7. Washington's balancing act between allies and regional stability. The United States, a staunch ally of Israel and a vocal critic of Iran's policies, finds itself walking a diplomatic tightrope. This balancing act is crucial for maintaining regional stability and safeguarding its own strategic interests. Washington has provided Israel with billions of dollars in military aid, bolstering its defense capabilities and providing a security umbrella. This support is seen as essential for Israel's survival in a volatile region, ensuring it can defend itself against various threats. However, the U.S. is also wary of being drawn into a conflict with Iran, particularly as it seeks to revive the Iran nuclear deal. The deal aims to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions in exchange for lifting economic sanctions, a delicate negotiation process. The Biden administration faces the daunting task of balancing its commitment to Israel's security with its desire to avoid further escalation in the region. This involves navigating complex political landscapes and managing the expectations of various stakeholders. The U.S. has repeatedly called for restraint from both sides, urging a de-escalation of tensions and a return to dialogue. Diplomatic efforts are ongoing, with the hope that sustained negotiations can lead to a more stable and peaceful Middle East. Section 8. The perils of brinkmanship, miscalculation, and unintended consequences. The current standoff between Iran and Israel highlights the perils of brinkmanship in international relations. The constant exchange of threats, the military posturing, and the lack of direct communication channels increase the risk of miscalculation and unintended escalation. In a region as volatile as the Middle East, even a minor incident could spiral out of control, leading to a wider conflict with unforeseen and potentially catastrophic consequences. The absence of dialogue and the breakdown of trust between Iran and Israel create a dangerous vacuum, ripe for misunderstandings and misinterpretations. Section 9. The international community's role, a call for restraint and dialogue. The international community has a crucial role to play in diffusing tensions between Iran and Israel. The United Nations, regional organizations, and individual countries must exert their influence to encourage restraint, facilitate dialogue, and promote a peaceful resolution to this long-standing conflict. Sanctions, while potentially effective in exerting economic pressure, have limitations and can sometimes exacerbate tensions. Diplomatic efforts, focused on addressing the underlying issues and fostering trust, are essential to finding a lasting solution. Section 10. The future of the Middle East, navigating through turbulent waters. The future of the Middle East hangs in the balance. The escalating tensions between Iran and Israel, if left unchecked, threaten to engulf the region in a new cycle of violence and instability. The potential consequences of a wider conflict are too dire to contemplate. The path forward requires a fundamental shift in the dynamics of this relationship. It demands a commitment to dialogue, a willingness to address grievances, and a recognition of the shared interests of all parties involved. The alternative is a descent into chaos, with far-reaching and devastating consequences for the entire world. Section 11. The urgency of diplomacy, a path away from the abyss. Diplomacy, however challenging, remains the only viable option to avert disaster. It is imperative for Iran and Israel, with the support of the international community, to engage in direct and meaningful negotiations aimed at addressing the core issues driving this conflict. The pursuit of peace, though fraught with obstacles, is the only responsible course of action. The alternative is unthinkable, a prospect that demands the full attention and unwavering commitment of the international community. The time for diplomacy is now, before the flames of conflict engulf the region and beyond.